Let me shut this door, and then we'll start. Well, first of all, thank you guys for attending this session. We're super excited. We think we're doing something really interesting and cutting edge at Fort Madison with using 360 video in the coaching process. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like today. So I am Andrew Troxel. I'm the K-12 Technology Integrator for Fort Madison Community School District. This is our second year in the TLC process. And this is Megan Kruse.
I'm Megan Kruse. I teach 6th grade at Fort Madison Middle School. And I want to tell you a little bit about the structure of our middle school because it's unique. 5 years ago, we opened up our 4 through 8 middle school building. And it's gone through several changes in 5 years, but the way it's set up is we have 4th and 5th grade in a wing, so they still get a function as an elementary school. And then my 6th grade wing is all by itself, so we are the transition year, and then 7th and 8th grade are in their own wing, and they function like a typical middle school. So it's a unique setup to have 4th and 5th graders in that middle school, but it works. It works.
So before we begin, I think with the resources, I pushed out the PowerPoint presentation. What I would like to do is draw your attention to this site. You can find resources that we're going to share today, also some additional stuff as well. So certainly you can click on that link, but you can also go to FM, Fort Madison, so fmtls.org. And so this is where we're housing a lot of our stuff with the TLS process. If you want to find the resources for today's presentation, it's under PD, and down underneath presentations, you'll find the 360 instructional coaching. For those of you that are looking for different apps, I know this isn't related to our session, but we do also have under teacher resources, technology, there's a bunch of general ed tech, kind of a one-stop shop as we find resources, or I find resources, I like to put them on here and put them in certain areas. And if you're looking for something that is discipline specific, under technology, for example, social studies, you will find things that are discipline specific technology. So some of these you've probably seen, might be some new ones on here. Again, this is a working website, so we're going to constantly add more resources as we go. But again, you can find all the resources you need for today's presentation on our TLS site.
Again, which menu is that under?
The PD, the stuff for today, under PD, presentations,
Okay.
and then 360 instructional coaching. Okay. So we're going to go back in time, but 15 years or so, really quick. This was me in 2003, just out of high school, and I played football for a few years at the University of Wisconsin at lacrosse. And this was the first time I really had an experience, we'll just leave it at that, with video. The bane of my existence while I played offensive line there was this guy. This was my offensive line coach, Coach Anderson. And he always had this saying, "The eye in the sky doesn't lie." Like that sound haunts me still to this day, you know? And so he would sit there, we'd watch video, I pulled the wrong direction, we'd rewind it and watch it 15 times. You know, stuff like that. So my first experience with video wasn't the most positive experience in the world. But to his credit though, it did give kind of that honest depiction of what actually happened. And so you bet your tail, I went back to my dorm room that night and I practiced pulling for about 45 minutes straight, make sure that didn't happen again. Mm-hmm. So I think we realized that video is very important, but how is it valuable? And one thing that I really like about video is that it really allows us to see what it looks like when we teach, but also how our students learn as well. And it's honest. You know, it's going to give us that honest depiction of what happens in our classrooms. We also get that context when we're delivering information, and sometimes we don't normally get that as well. And then lastly, we can really analyze this from a lot of different perspectives. So video can be extremely powerful. It also is really scary to a lot of people. What I love about this the most, though, is that we go from I saw to we see. So it's partnership coaching when we look at the video together. So I think it comes off as less judgmental, no matter what coaching stem you use. You're in this thing together, you're analyzing it as a partnership and as a team, and I think that that's going to facilitate more self-reflection a little quicker.
It can also serve as a deterrent to those who are already leery about being videotaped. When they think about being videotaped and having a coach to review that videotape with them, it can be really daunting. But I think the more that we employ this and see how we're using it, that I think more and more will embrace the idea.
So how did we get here? This is our third iteration of using video in the classroom. The first time we did this, we used a swivel. How many of you have used a swivel or have a swivel in your district? When I saw it, it was awesome. And they're still really, really cool. And we used it quite a bit in classrooms, and students used it for projects. But the one thing I didn't like about that is you only could follow one person at a time. So we went back to problem solving though. How do we get an accurate depiction of what the classroom looks like? No big deal. We'll use a swivel, and we'll set up a stationary iPad in the corner to see what happens when the kids are doing stuff. So now we have two videos, and we're looking side by side to see what the teacher is doing and what the students are doing. And I was fortunate enough to attend a tech network meeting in Great Prairie AEA, and Lisa Jacobs from Atumwa, she introduced the 360 camera, the Theta S. And so I got to play with this a little bit last year to see what it did and how easy it was to use. And so, in thinking about where we've been with capturing video in the classroom, the 360 camera was a nice fit to really what we want to do, which is capture what an actual classroom environment looks like while teachers teach. At the same time, it's not a burden or it's not a distraction. So, has anybody interacted with 360 video before? Okay. Some yes, some no, a little bit. Okay, so here's some video of the Theta S, and we're going to show you some classroom examples here in a little bit. This is what they pushed out on YouTube. So really you can grab and you can turn anywhere you want to look with this stuff. And so we can look up and you see that this is just affixed to a drone as it hovers over here. So it really gives you the freedom to focus on whatever you want to focus on. And actually probably what would be easiest for you, if you guys can access this presentation on your phone will actually let you move it around and it'll be a lot more fluid than clicking and dragging and doing this. And so that's a good way to kind of fully immerse yourself in that classroom or in the 360 video. Now, if you go to YouTube, you can quickly search whatever topic and put 360 behind it, and you're going to see that there are a lot of 360 videos that are already out there. And so you can use these for instructional purposes with your kids, but what we're going to focus on today is taking that same technology and using it for analyzing the classroom experience. Any questions so far? Feel free to pause or interject anytime. You know what, I should have done this before. Let me put this in Q&A mode. So if you do have a question that comes up and you want to ask that one, just click on that link or enter that into your URL and feel free to post a question. So, what technology do we use? So this is it. This is the Theta S, and they just released a new one, but there's not much to it. This will run about $329 or so. I think we got ours off of Amazon. And it's probably the most economical model that's out there right now. Samsung has a 360 video, but you have to use it with an Android phone. This one can be used wherever you want to take it, to be honest with you. We just had a walkathon at our high school track where we do not have Wi-Fi, and so I took this out there, put it on our stand, and just walked around the track as kids were walking by you. So that's really a nice feature to have here. So with this, it does max out at 25 minutes of recording time, which really isn't that bad when you're in a classroom, because you don't want to watch probably a whole hour of instruction. You know, in 25 minutes, you should be able to see what you need to see. And if it's 25 minutes of lecture, well, there's a conversation maybe that you can have about having 25 minutes of lecture. So some additional things that I would recommend. This is just a tripod. I got this off Amazon. They run about $25 or so. And then they also have a protective case if you plan on taking this outside, because this is not good with water or dust or anything like that. And so it'll sit in the base, the protective case will go over it, then you can take it wherever you want to go. So how I use these two things is I'll take this and just affix it to a tripod case. And you don't have to get something as big as this. They make the smaller ones as well. That would work just fine. And then I'm just going to turn it on. And then once it's on, everything else is controlled by an app on your phone that you download. I apologize, I wish I had my Chromecast working and I would show you what it would look like. But it'll ask me to find it on your Wi-Fi. And so I find my Theta S. You know, it will take longer to connect today. But once that's there, you can just hit record and then walk away. And so you don't need to sit here and monitor it. So we'll get that going here in a little bit. And hopefully once that's recording, if you have questions about what it looks like at the end when you want to upload the video, I'll be able to show you that process as well. Okay. All right. Now, the one thing about the Theta S that really is kind of a drawback is the audio is terrible. Now, if you're holding it here, all right, or if you have it on a tripod, it's going to pick up the audio really well. But anytime you're over there now, or across the classroom, or if you have a classroom full of kids, the audio is going to be atrocious.
What if you have a red cap?
Or
Like you're wearing right now?
yes.
It's fine?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take that MP3 of the audio, put it into something like Adobe Premiere Pro, put those two things together, and then export that. And I'll get to that in just a minute, but yeah, that is an option. But it is valuable when we talk about the coaching process to mic the teacher, because we're going to want to pay attention to what the teacher is doing or saying, all right, and also kind of maybe what the kids are doing as well. So that's why it's extremely important to have good audio when you go into the coaching process. And I'll show you the difference of what the audio sounds like with just the Theta S, and then when you have the additional audio as well.
My prediction is that within a year, they will have developed the audio so that you're not having to do what Andrew's doing with taking that audio light and matching it up with the video.
So, and I have all the instructions to get started using the 360 camera on the 360 Instructional Coaching Google folder on our TLS website. The Theta S conversion software is free. If you take a look at this camera, what you get in the raw footage are two circles side by side. All right, and so what the software does is it takes those two circles, puts them together, it's called stitching, and then it creates that 360 feel of that environment. So that is free, and then you can take that MP4 file, upload that to YouTube, which is really easy, and again, I can show you at the end of today what that process looks like. And then voila, YouTube does everything for you. You've got a 360 video that you can share out. You can manipulate just like what I showed you earlier. Okay? Now, if you're going to take audio and video and put those two things together, the best product that I've found so far on the market is Adobe Premiere Pro. For $20 a month, you can have access to the Creative Cloud, and that's everything. That's Photoshop, that's Premiere Pro, that's like 15 other resources. It's wild. It's pretty awesome. It's a good, I think, investment for 20 bucks a month. And I just use it for this purpose. Okay, so let's take a look at the difference in audio, and I apologize if you can't hear it very well. But this is Megan's classroom, and I think you're doing a literature circle? Or
This is a reading lesson, and depending on what portion of the video we're watching, they have made a choice in what they're going to do during that time. We call it Daily 5. If anybody's in the elementary world, you might be familiar with that term.
So here's the video with the Theta S audio. And I know you really can't hear it back there. Here, I'll take this and put it like this. It's still atrocious.
That's not it. That's the room next door.
So let's go ahead and let's play it with audio.
And I need to back up just from the last sentence.
It's like night and day.
Which says,
And
in
then-
about 90 seconds, he'll be on the big screen.
If we take a look, that's where the Theta S is.
Who will be on the
And
big
as we
screen?
drag this around, you can see
Yeah.
Megan is at the front of the classroom there.
And why would Mr. Van Leer be on there? We had to make some predictions about that yesterday.
So as you can see, audio is going to make a big difference when you do this. So that's a little bit about the technology. If you're into some of the academic study or so that's been done on this, one of the better books that I've read is by Jim Knight. I don't know, excuse me. Has anybody gone through this training before? All right, using video for high impact instruction. What's nice about this book, and you can page through this if you want to, is he talks about just the power of video, but then he'll also talk about what this looks like for instructional coaches, teachers that are doing this on their own, administrators that might use this process in evaluation, whatever. And so he's got a lot of different strategies and things to consider when you start using video in the classroom. So I would highly recommend looking at this book and going into some of those, depending on what your focus is or how you want to utilize 360 video with your job responsibilities. So, we've got a video, it's been uploaded to YouTube, it's good quality. What do? Okay, the first view, the teacher should probably watch this alone, in an environment where they're not distracted or they're not going to be interrupted. And what they're going to watch for the first go around is what they look like and how they sound. Nothing to do with instruction. You know, and I would say if we all were to do this, in fact that's what I'm going to do here in about 2 hours, we're going to look at that. So just watch it through, don't pause it, don't stop it. You're going to watch it a few times. The second time, this is when you're going to go back through and you're going to watch for anything that's noteworthy. And just make a note of, this was good, this is an area where I can improve this. And what's nice is Megan's here, and she'll probably talk about both of those things when we look at her video in just about 5 or 10 minutes. And then the third view is sitting down with the coach. So hopefully by this point, the teacher will be comfortable with how the lesson went, what they saw, and so then we can really start talking about different areas that they would like to focus on. So Megan, if you want to talk about the teacher's perspective, it would be great.
So about 12 or 13 years ago, I went through the National Board Certification process. Very rigorous, very worthwhile. And one of the big objectives with that process was to engage in self-reflection. And I was telling Andrew last night, I don't think I ever really self-reflected before the process. And the more I thought about that statement, I retract that. I think we naturally engage in self-reflection, but I wasn't formal about it and I didn't act on my self-reflection. And so that process really brought me through, it highlighted how important that is. To take it here now 12, 13 years later and go through this process, it's a completely different, I can't think of the word, it's a completely different process. 12 years ago, I was setting up a tripod in my classroom. I was putting an old camera up. I was finding a microphone that you plugged in and it was in mobile, and I was having a small group of kids sit around that microphone, and I would go through my lesson, and then I'd spend hours reviewing, and out that wasn't gonna work, and we'd set up the process all over again, working by myself, and I was seeing one singular view of a lesson with not even an entire group of kids. Fast forward to today, oh my gosh, this is so great. It's so great. Because I get to see everything. And I'm not doing all the legwork. I'm not having to set up the tripod and the camera. And I have a coach to guide me through the technical process, but then the more powerful part of the whole thing, which is that reflection. And it's a self-reflection, but when we look at the video, I want you to be thinking about the potential for reflection beyond just the teacher engaging in that self-reflection. So, yeah, and I don't want to, yeah.
And I think to go along with that, what's really cool about these 360 videos, you can actually upload those to like Edpuzzle and post questions as you go, which is awesome. So now the kids are not just passively watching a video, you know, they're able to scan an environment, they're looking for hidden things that you're asking them to do, which is kind of a cool evolution.
It is, and so the potential for kids to self-reflect, when we look at this lesson, I am so going to bring this back and push it out to my kids through Google Classroom. We'll use Edpuzzle, set up some questions along the way. What were you doing during this lesson? What should you have been doing? What are you pretty proud of? What would you do differently next time? And it'll be so easy to model that in my own thinking as I'm reflecting on myself and then encourage them to do the same. So.
Yeah.
I just think, I've done a little bit of this too, I've never went 360, but I talked to teachers about self-reflection before, and they said, well, it was just me complaining about what didn't go right. And now when you do self-reflection this way, there is some positive things that you can see, and it narrows it down so you don't just throw out the whole lesson. You narrow your focus and go, well, I can just change this, and it might change the whole thing. And then you don't feel like it always started from scratch.
So true. And this is kind of off on a different tangent, but when I listen to my colleagues, they are engaging in reflection. Oftentimes, I shouldn't say often, sometimes, they are reflecting on how the kids reacted, how the kids behaved. And it's that instead of, okay, so that's what the kids did, what did I do? Some of them aren't there yet. And so this has so much potential for them to be able to start that process.
And if you go on your slide, go back a couple where you had those 3 different stages. Right. That first view, second view, third view, those are different things that you walk through as you do that. Like the first time, they'll see things that they did wrong, or they'll see the classroom management issues. Then you can just keep building.
No, that first view really is, did I wear that day?
Yeah.
And then the second view is.
Yeah.
Why don't you take us on a tour of your classroom?
That I took, we were somewhere here.
So what's happening here is we've come back to the gathering place. Do we have any elementary teachers in here? Okay, and you're familiar with the Daily 5 Cafe process? So I use bits and pieces of it. And now the kids are back in the gathering place, and our gathering place is too small, and our 6th grade bodies are big, so they're not all in a nice, neat area necessarily. We have some in between tables. And in this lesson, we're playing a little bit of Guess My Genre. So, and throughout the week, I'm bringing them through baskets of genres, with our goal being to compare and contrast genres.
And then what I'm doing in the background as the coach, I'm just starting like I did this on my cell phone, starting and stopping the video, and then you can kind of see that white speck, and that's just a swivel. But I'm using that solely to just capture the audio that Megan has. And we won't watch all of this, but I think just to start a little bit what this looks like, how it could work for you, and then you have a valuable, I think, transitional period in here. That we can look at that, would be wonderful.
So it might be on that page. And then the genre piece might come
she forgot to bring her notebook over, and that's why we have a student over here.
All of these baskets are filled with books that all fall into those genres that come from that genre. And your job is to get
Yeah, that'd be great.
and we're not going to
And this is the process. I wish I could say I thought of this, but this is part of that daily 5 process where the kids get choice and they're now telling me what they're going to do for their daily 5 round. They're going to read to self, listen to reading, work on writing, and I haven't rolled out the other 2 options there, but in a couple weeks we'll have 5 options. And this cracks me up because this young lady is somebody I would consider a very well-behaved student. She's very quiet, very shy. And in watching this video as time goes on, and I'm just checking to see, I think, of what she was doing for the day, but as the video goes on, she was rather distracting to her classmates. It was eye-opening to me. Oh, I must have been telling her she was going to have an 8th grade tutor with her.
Well, the other thing that Megan really discussed the first 2 weeks, right now she's talking with a kid. It's so nice to just pan around and see what's happening back here. You know?
Because never are we doing that. Never are we able to have the eyes in the back of our head that we claim that we have. So,
Until now.
until now.
So then this would be the video that I would push out and then let her watch that a couple times and then come back through and then I'll show you the coaching document that I would use that would allow Megan to kind of choose an area that she would like to focus on with this.
And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but this is just a new thought to me. I'm so excited about the potential to share this with the kids. And they will individually be able to watch it and analyze and answer questions through Ed Puzzle. So I really want Andrew to come back and take a few lessons with my other reading classes throughout the day so that.
Okay, so what's my role, when we go through and we're actually looking at the video? So what's nice about this, and usually I have a Chromecast that I bring up, and so I let the teacher cast the video, and they pan around the room. And so as they look at the screen, and actually you can take the YouTube video and put it in VR with Google Cardboard glasses, they can actually wear those and be in their environment. But then as they look around, all I'm doing is I'm asking questions. What's going on right now with this kid? What's the context? What are those kids in the back supposed to be doing? And she's just explaining as she goes. So it doesn't seem, I think, as formal as, a regular coaching conversation could be, or is. And so then what I'm doing, depending on what she selects, and we'll talk about the coaching document here in just a minute, I'm just kind of charting data. And so then we can eventually have that conversation about what we saw, and then maybe talk about what strategies could we use to make some changes possibly. Which is nice because then I don't feel like I'm on the spot asking all these question stems that I'm stumbling over and stuff like that. It's just more of an authentic, genuine conversation. So like I said, with the Chromecast, those run about $35 or so, and so she has a projector in her room, and that was the first time that we looked at it. We just hijacked that. I used the Google Home app to cast my screen on my phone, and then gave her my phone, and then had her look around. Actually, I think before that I gave you the Google Cardboard glasses, and you put those on, and I don't know how you fall down.
I nearly got sick.
But it was really cool though. And so really, that's not very expensive to do this kind of stuff. And I think the kids get more of a kick out of it than you with using the VR viewer and stuff like that. But what's nice about that, either way, I would recommend probably using the phone or a tablet. You're able to see her logic or the teacher's logic, and then kind of ask questions as she's processing her own environment, which is really nice as a coach. Instead of saying, hey, what about looking over here? Check this out, She's going to identify what she thinks is important with that lesson or an area that she wants to focus on. So in the folder, or you can click on this link, the video coaching guide, if you want to bring that up. This is inspired by Gym Night, but let me show you what it entails here. It has a lot of different areas where we can focus on just kind of what happens in the classroom. And so half of this is going to look at what the teacher is doing, and then the other half is going to look at what are the students doing. So, one of the things with video that scares people is, the teachers feel maybe, or they might feel like they're under the gun, they're being judged, they look at this video. By having the option to look at what the students are doing, it gives them that out, if you will. Where we can start with what the kids are doing and then gradually work up to that self-reflection about what they're doing in the classroom. So some of the key areas here that Jim has in his book are praise and corrections. So what is the ratio between how often you praise kids and how often you're correcting kids? And he has some goal areas, and those are listed below there. Mindset. So we've heard a lot about growth mindset in the last probably 5 years in education. But I don't know if we really kind of reflect on the language that we're using, what's more fixed in nature and what's more growth in nature. And so this is kind of looking at what language are we using with our kids? Are we fostering a growth mindset? Using growth language. Opportunities to respond. So we'll take a look at, how many opportunities did kids have to respond to what you're teaching them? That kind of goes along with one later on, did the teacher talk, or were you just kind of talking at them for the whole duration of the lesson?
When you talk about beating yourself up watching a lesson, I was completely beating myself up watching this lesson. When I was book talking a couple of books, I heard in the video and saw some kids whispering about about the book. I didn't give them an opportunity to just talk. It was me. Maybe because the camera was in and I was nervous, maybe because we're always forever in a hurry, but.
So instructional time is another one versus non-instructional time. So you can chart how much time is lost with some of those transitions that happen, as part of the classroom. The types of questions that you're asking, and I thought this was pretty good. We talk about different DOK levels, with the instructional process. And I'm guilty of this as a high school teacher. I would a lot of times use low-level questions, but then ask my kids to do high-level stuff. And so there's that leap that I'm expecting them to do, and when they didn't get it, I was frustrated. But then once I went back and kind of self-reflected, I need to scaffold that to get up to the point where they can think in terms of higher-order stuff. So I'm not saying that one is bad and one is good, but too much of anything can be potentially problematic. So student talk versus teacher talk. So that first section is really about what the teacher is doing. But then we take a look at this one, and I think this is the one that Megan and I did the first time we did this, the diverse responders in circulation. So she was watching her video, and what I would do is I would just ask, who are these kids? And she would give me their names, and I put a tally every time she interacted with these kids. And so at the end of our, I think it was 10 or 15 minutes or so, we had data saying, here's the kids that you were looking or working with, and we were able to look at gender. These are the kids that always had their hands up. I mean, there's a lot of data now that you can analyze to see who you're talking to and who you're not talking to as well. And along with that, you also have engagement. And so we can take a look at the video and do the same thing, except just chart, when they're engaged or when they're distracted. And then we have a conversation about, well, why are they distracted? What are they not getting? Are they not being challenged enough? Is this too hard for them? And they've checked out? We don't know. And that's what's nice about the 360 video, is we're able to see the entire environment at any given time. So those are the areas that I have there. One thing I did do, because I kind of like this, as a coach, is I have some just guiding questions. And these are things that I've come up with, that I've found, that I've thought about, that I've used. And so these are just questions that go with each one of these areas. And so as a teacher is looking at their video, this might be a question that I would ask, to kind of guide their thinking around one of these areas.
And when he said one of these areas, and Andrew probably already mentioned this earlier, but you really want to just choose one area to focus on as you are reflecting on that video. It would be overwhelming to choose each of these, maybe two.
Right. And I like to give that sheet to the teacher and say, what would you like to look at today? So it's not me saying, I saw some classroom management issues, let's focus on that. So there's that choice empowerment aspect when we look at the video, which is nice. And if we do this multiple times and we're constantly looking at, praise and corrections, then that's maybe probably an opportunity to have a conversation to look at something else as well, to get out of our comfort zone. And then just at the bottom, this is some other stuff from some other coaching stuff that I've gone through in the last 2 years. Just some coaching stems. You guys have probably seen a lot of these already, but it's nice to have them in one location with everything. So kind of went through all this. And that's really kind of an overview of how we're using this. And so I know we're ahead of schedule here, but one of the things we want to do is just kind of open it up for Q&A. If you want to talk to Megan about the teacher perspective of what that would look like, she'll hang around. If you'd like to see how we go through the process of taking the raw data and uploading it to YouTube and pushing it out that way, we can do that as well.
Have you tried it with Edpuzzle yet?
Mm-hmm.
And the 360 works within Edpuzzle?
Yeah.
Within that
Would you like to see it?
I just want to make sure you've tried it and it does work. That's good. Just to know.
I just did right before the session began. I started an Edpuzzle account, which I hadn't had, and I put this video in, but I haven't assigned it or done anything.
And within it does work. Okay.
There you go. You can still rotate that
Good.
and then just pose questions as we go.
Later on in the lesson, when they're out independently doing their read to self, work on writing, listen to reading, and I'm conferencing with the student, that was my favorite part of this reflection, is to pan around that room and see what everybody was doing while I was back at that table conferencing. And for them to be able to do that, for them to be able to look. And they'll have fun with what their friends were doing, and they'll giggle about that, but by being able to insert questions that they need to answer to reflect on their own engagement in the lesson will be critical.
Good question. Any other thoughts, Laura?
So you're going to show, or you have shown this to kids and talk about, you said like reflection. Are you just talking about the classroom environment itself, or are you talking about like the curriculum or the lesson?
I haven't used it yet with kids.
Okay.
Oh boy, but I will.
Yeah.
And so, and my thinking is, it will be used to, right now my thinking is, for them to reflect on their use of daily 5 time.
Okay. So like a behavior, kind of like the classroom management kind of.
Yeah. Well, now that you say it that way, that doesn't have math.
Well, I kind of, when you guys were showing this, like my brain kind of went to, like schools are working with MTSS and interventions, and there's some kids that like really struggle in like classroom management, and they do these like check-in, check-outs, and I'm just imagining some of these students, if they were able to see themselves in the context of the classroom, and so that like we see together what's happening, and then the student can talk about, so instead of the teacher saying, well, you can't do this, and you're doing this, but now they see it and can reflect on it. That's what I was thinking, like in terms of using this like for the kids.
To go along with that, Laura, our construction tech teacher, what he does, or what he wanted to do, is he wants to get kind of a first-person perspective, because he has to be a foreman for the day, so he can work on those management skills. And so on his hard hat, he'll have a GoPro, and he's able to get that perspective. But then he thought, you know what, this is awesome. So he actually took our 360 camera, hung it up in the middle of the construction lab, and then we were able to put these two things together. And so now he sits down with kids and said, has a conversation, here's what you were trying to do, how'd it go? Well, I thought it went really good. Well, you've got 4 kids over here that aren't doing anything. So how good was it? You know what I mean? And he just sings praises about this, because those are conversations that are so valuable at that age level, that kids aren't blindsided when they go into the workforce and realize that it might not be
As easy as
other people,
when you're a
Right.
foreman. That's cool.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
See how you stitch it together.
Okay, I can walk you through that process. One thing too with these videos, I mean, make sure before you start pushing this stuff out, you check and see who can be videotaped and whatnot. YouTube is nice because you can make the private videos and unlisted and so on and so forth. But just kind of keep that in the back of your mind before you start pushing this stuff out. But yeah, let me transition and I'll kind of go through the process of how I upload it, and we'll go from there. And if you guys want to talk to Megan about anything else besides the non-technical stuff, she'll hang around and have a conversation with you.
Like your charts, where you're charting all the data on like mindset and instructional time and all that, is that something you do as the coach?
Yes.
While the two of you are watching, or is that something you have done ahead of time? Like, do you have homework you do while she's watching it? Do you also watch it on your own?
So that would be, he would be charting as he's probably during the live lesson.
Yeah,
Oh,
during the conversation. That's the first time that I look at that coaching document.
okay.
Because I just don't have time,
Yep.
to watch the video 2 or 3 times. And I think we get the data that we need to really start that conversation. Yeah, feel free to make a copy of that if you'd like.
So a funny aside that has nothing to do with this, my 6th grade team has finally just started using Seesaw. I know Seesaw has been out there for a while. And we had them go on a very amateur archaeological dig. They came back inside and they did a video reflection of their archaeological dig. They had 4 questions to answer. And after school that day, I was watching their videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And I run out to the hallway to tell my colleagues, these kids are awesome. You should see their video reflections. It's like they've been videotaping themselves their whole life. And one of my colleagues looked at me and said, Megan, they have. Just a
Right.
So I don't think they'll be as intimidated, reflecting on this as we are.
So I just plugged in the camera, and it looks like this. And I'm going to show you the raw data here in just a minute. At the mercy of the upload. So this is just our session that I'm uploading right now. So recorded about 24 minutes or so. That's a big file, so it might take a little bit. And that's the thing I have to get used to is the turnaround is going to take at least 24 hours to do this. So a lot of times when I'll come in and I'll videotape, we won't have a follow-up session until the next week or so, just to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row before we look at that video.
But it's okay because we have the eye in the sky line. It's all there. We're not trying to remember what happened.
So while that's uploading, I will show you some old footage so you can see what it looks like. Oops. So getting used to Windows 10. So this is the raw data. That's what it looks like from the camera. And so if you were to take this MP4, this is a concrete pour that our construction group did, it would look like this on YouTube, and it wouldn't look very good. And so what we have to do is we have to upload that file into this resource here. Again, this is free, you can download this, and all we do is we take that raw file of the fisheye lens, drop it in here, and then what it looks like when that's done uploading, it looks like this. So again, not very good, but we will take this file, upload this to YouTube, and YouTube will stitch everything together. So let me show you what that would look like. Am I going too fast, or is this what you guys wanted to see? Okay.
How long does that take? Like, if you have a 25-minute video?
To go like through the Theta S software, that probably takes about 10 or 15 minutes or so. And then uploading that to YouTube, anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes from there. So yeah, then once it's up in YouTube, they'll do the rest. We're able to do the rest.
Is there any special things you have to select for YouTube?
No.
Or you just upload it like a normal YouTube video,
Yep.
and then you just automatically.
So I'll go to let me show you that. Those that haven't done that. So I go to YouTube. Up here, there's my upload button. So then I take that MP4, that's the non-fisheye lens video, I'll drop that in here, and then from there, YouTube will recognize that it's a 360 video, it'll do the rest. And so once
It
it's
automatically recognizes it.
yeah.
What about the sound part of it? Like you said, they have, like you use the swivel to pick up the extra sound. How do you get that into this?
Good question. So what I like to use is the Adobe Creative Cloud. And so you can see for 20 bucks a month, you have access to all of this stuff. But it's Premiere Pro, and this is the best resource out there right now that works with 360 video. Before this, I really used Camtasia a lot for video editing. Camtasia doesn't work well with 360 video. So this was a learning curve for me to figure out how this works, but I've got it down now. And so essentially, what you'll do is you'll import your media down here. You can just double click and drag it in there. And so you'll see that I'll have a 360 video after it's been converted to the Beta S software. Right here. And so here I can drag the video or the audio, depending on what I want. So I only want the video, because the audio is bad. But then what I'll do is I'll take the swivel perspective and drag just the audio and down here in the timeline. And so then I have to put these two things together, make sure that it's not a Bruce Lee movie, you know, so that everything matches. So that takes a little bit of time. And then once that's done, I just file, export. And again, if you're serious about this, I'd love to help you out. This took me days to figure this out, you know, so let me help you. To media. And then once you're in here, the nice thing about this is that it'll automatically connect with your YouTube account. So then I just export and walk away. So it'll take 15 or 20 minutes. I'll get an email, you know, 20, 25 minutes later saying, congratulations, your video has been posted to YouTube. And so then I'll go in there and I'll change up the security settings if I want that private, unlisted, or whatever. But that's how you would take those two different file formats and put them together.
That's mind-boggling to me, and this is again where I think, in the day and age we live in, that's got to come together. Somebody out there has to make those two come together without you having to do that. It reminds me of Buddy Berry talking this morning about 2.5 hours to send an email in 1997. You know, this is, I don't mind because I'm not having to do this.
Right. Yeah, it takes a little bit, you know, and honestly, if you're going to start with 360 video, maybe just go with Beta S. You know, just look at what the environment looks like. But if you want to take that next step, you know, talk about, you know, what language is being said in the classroom, this is the direction that I would go, through Adobe Premiere Pro. All right. I'll stick around. I think our time is about up here. So if you have any other questions about the technical side of things or anything from Megan, we'd love to talk to you. And if there's anything that you want from us, we will gladly share with you. But thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be great.